Hello everyone. Welcome back to Hidden Roots Wellness. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating topic that might completely change the way you see the world. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to discover is surprising, mysterious, and incredibly interesting. Have you ever stopped to wonder why so many people spend hundreds of dollars every year on bottled supplements, trendy powders, and miracle wellness drinks, yet still wake up exhausted before the day has even begun? As the years pass, many people notice the same troubling pattern. They open their eyes with a dry mouth. Their joints feel stiff before they even stand. Their stomach seems heavier than it did years ago, and their energy fades long before the afternoon arrives. Modern life offers countless products promising instant vitality, but despite all these inventions, millions still struggle to feel truly healthy. Perhaps the better question is not what new drink has been created, but what ancient wisdom has quietly been forgotten. Long before pharmacies stood on every corner and before laboratories could isolate vitamins into capsules, generations survived using the gifts that grew naturally around them. They depended on herbs, fruits, grains, and simple ingredients that nourished the body day after day. Throughout Scripture, certain plants and drinks appear again and again, not simply because they were available, but because they became symbols of restoration, strength, healing, and endurance. Today, many scientific studies are beginning to reveal something remarkable. Some of these ancient beverages contain powerful natural compounds that may support immunity, calm inflammation, encourage healthy digestion, improve sleep, protect the heart, and help the body age with greater resilience. What earlier generations accepted through experience is now being examined under the microscope with surprising results. In this journey, we are going to rediscover 15 extraordinary drinks connected to the biblical world, arranged according to what the body often needs most as it grows older. Some soothe the stomach after heavy meals. Others gently support the immune system. Some encourage peaceful sleep, while others refresh the mind when fatigue begins to cloud clear thinking. One of the drinks near the end comes from a plant mentioned throughout Scripture hundreds of times and treasured across the Mediterranean for centuries. Another finishes our journey with an herb long believed to help preserve alertness and memory. Each one carries a story that stretches across thousands of years, reminding us that true wellness often begins with the simplest habits. Our journey begins with one of the most overlooked plants in the Bible. It does not produce dazzling flowers. It is not covered with colorful fruit. Most people today walk past it without giving it a second thought. Yet few plants appear at more meaningful moments throughout Scripture than hyssop. On the night when the Israelites prepared to leave Egypt forever, every family followed a command that would become one of history's most unforgettable moments. They were instructed to take a bundle of hyssop, dip it into the blood of the Passover lamb, and mark the doorposts of their homes. That humble plant became associated with protection, deliverance, and the beginning of a completely new life. It was not chosen because it looked impressive. It was chosen because it represented cleansing and faith. Centuries later, King David reached for the same image during one of the darkest seasons of his life. Overwhelmed with regret and longing for forgiveness, he cried out to God, asking to be cleansed with hyssop so that he might become pure again. His prayer revealed something deeply human. Sometimes the greatest burden is not physical weakness but the invisible weight carried inside the heart. Hyssop became a picture of leaving behind what was heavy and stepping into renewal. In the hills surrounding ancient Israel, hyssop grew naturally among rocky slopes where little else could survive. Families gathered its leaves and stems, often drying them for later use. When evening arrived and the day's labor was finally over, small handfuls of the herb were steeped in hot water. As steam filled the room, it released a crisp, earthy fragrance that seemed to freshen the air itself. It was neither overly sweet nor sharply bitter. Instead, it created a feeling of freshness that matched its long history as a symbol of purification. Modern researchers have found that hyssop contains aromatic oils, antioxidants, and plant compounds that have attracted growing interest for their potential to support respiratory comfort and protect cells from oxidative stress. Herbal traditions have long valued it for soothing the throat and encouraging easier breathing during seasonal discomfort. While research continues, Its long-standing reputation reminds us that many natural remedies earned their place through generations of careful observation rather than clever marketing. Still, reducing hyssop to chemistry alone misses its deepest significance. The Bible consistently places this plant at moments when people begin again. Whether standing at the doorway of freedom during Passover, crying out for forgiveness in David's psalm, or appearing again during the final hours of Christ's crucifixion, hyssop quietly reminds us that renewal often begins with humility. It whispers that restoration is possible even after seasons of pain. Preparing hyssop tea follows the same simple approach that ancient families would have recognized. A small amount of dried hyssop is placed into hot water and allowed to steep gently until the aroma fills the cup. Some choose to soften its flavor with a little raw honey or a few fresh mint leaves, but moderation remains important because the herb is naturally potent. Rather than becoming an everyday beverage, it serves best as an occasional companion when the body feels weary or when the changing seasons leave the throat and chest seeking comfort. Perhaps the greatest lesson hidden inside this ancient drink has little to do with herbs at all. Modern culture often teaches us to chase quick fixes, yet Scripture repeatedly points towards something slower and deeper. Healing is not always about finding the newest solution. Sometimes it begins by returning to simple habits, quiet moments, and gifts that have patiently waited through generations. As our journey continues, the next drink will reveal a fruit so treasured in biblical lands that it decorated priestly garments, adorned the temple itself, and today stands among the richest natural sources of protective antioxidants ever studied. If there was one fruit that perfectly represented abundance in the biblical world, it was the pomegranate. Travelers moving across the dusty hills of Canaan could recognize its bright crimson skin from a distance, hiding hundreds of jewel-like seeds beneath a thick protective shell. In a land where survival often depended upon the harvest, this remarkable fruit became far more than food. It symbolized life, prosperity, and the promise that even in dry places, God could provide extraordinary abundance. When the spies returned after exploring the Promised Land, they did not simply bring stories. They carried visible evidence that the land overflowed with blessing. Alongside enormous clusters of grapes and ripe figs were beautiful pomegranates, proving that the soil was rich enough to sustain generations. Later, the fruit appeared embroidered onto the robes of Israel's high priest and decorated the magnificent pillars surrounding Solomon's temple. These were not random artistic choices. Every pomegranate reminded the people that life flourishes where God provides nourishment. Imagine standing in an ancient orchard during the final weeks of summer. The afternoon sun warms the branches while ripe fruit hangs heavily from every tree. A farmer carefully twists a mature pomegranate from its stem, knowing its thick skin has protected something extraordinary inside. Breaking it open reveals hundreds of deep red seeds glistening in the sunlight, each one filled with refreshing juice. After hours of working beneath the relentless Middle Eastern sun, few drinks could restore the body quite like freshly pressed pomegranate juice. Modern science now understands why this fruit has earned such admiration. Pomegranates are packed with natural compounds called polyphenol, including punicalagins and anthocyanins, which are studied for their impressive antioxidant activity. These compounds help protect the body's cells from oxidative stress, one of the silent processes associated with aging. Researchers continue investigating how these antioxidants may support healthy circulation, cardiovascular function, and balanced inflammation throughout the body. While no single food can guarantee perfect health, pomegranate remains one of nature's richest sources of protective plant nutrients. Yet the greatest lesson hidden inside this fruit goes beyond nutrition. Every pomegranate teaches patience. From the outside it appears rough, hard, and almost ordinary. Only those willing to open it discover the treasure waiting inside. Human life often follows the same pattern. As the years pass, the outside of the body changes. Hair turns gray, joints become slower, and energy no longer feels endless. But beneath those outward changes, remarkable strength can still exist when the body receives proper nourishment and consistent care. The pomegranate quietly reminds us never to judge vitality by appearances alone. Preparing this ancient drink requires almost no complexity. The seeds are gently removed from the fruit, lightly crushed to release their vibrant juice, and mixed with cool water. Some families add a small spoonful of raw honey to soften the natural tartness, while others include fresh mint leaves that brighten the flavor without overwhelming it. Unlike many modern beverages loaded with refined sugar, authentic pomegranate juice allows the fruit itself to remain the star. Every sip delivers natural sweetness balanced by refreshing acidity, leaving the mouth clean rather than coated with syrup. As the body grows older, circulation becomes increasingly important. Blood must continue delivering oxygen and nutrients efficiently to every organ, every muscle, and every cell. Healthy blood vessels help support the brain, the heart, and countless systems working together every second of every day. Ancient people could not explain these biological processes. Yet, through careful observation, they recognized that certain foods consistently left them feeling stronger and more refreshed. Pomegranates earned their place among those treasured gifts through centuries of practical experience. From one fruit rich with vibrant color, we now move toward a root whose appearance is far less impressive, but whose warmth has comforted generations. Unlike olives or grapes, ginger did not naturally grow throughout biblical Israel. Instead, it traveled remarkable distances along ancient trade routes that connected distant civilizations. Merchants carried it across deserts and seas because its value extended far beyond its role as a spice. It became one of the ancient world's most trusted companions for supporting digestion, easing discomfort, and warming the body from within. Picture a cold evening after sunset. During the day, desert heat covered every stone, but now cool winds sweep through narrow village streets. Inside a modest home, a clay pot rests over glowing coals while slices of fresh ginger gently simmer in water. Gradually, the room fills with a rich, spicy aroma that seems to chase away the evening chill. Before anyone even takes the first sip, warmth begins reaching the senses through its fragrance alone. Modern researchers have identified naturally occurring compounds within ginger known as gingerols and showgales. These substances continue attracting attention for their potential anti-inflammatory properties and their ability to support comfortable digestion. Clinical studies have also explored ginger's usefulness in helping reduce nausea associated with motion sickness, pregnancy, and certain medical treatments. Although science continues expanding our understanding, cultures throughout Asia, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean trusted ginger long before laboratories existed. When combined with raw honey, the drink becomes even more comforting. Honey contributes natural enzymes, antioxidants, and soothing qualities that complement ginger's warming nature. Together, they create a beverage that feels remarkably balanced. The ginger gently stimulates while the honey softens its intensity, producing a cup that comforts without overwhelming the senses. Preparing this drink remains beautifully uncomplicated. Fresh ginger is sliced or grated into water and allowed to simmer slowly until its beneficial compounds infuse the liquid. Only after the tea cools slightly should raw honey be stirred in, preserving many of its naturally occurring enzymes. There is no rush. This is not a beverage meant to be swallowed in seconds before racing out the door. It invites stillness. Every warm sip encourages the body to slow down, allowing comfort to spread naturally from the throat to the stomach. Perhaps this explains why ancient communities valued such drinks so deeply. They were never merely consuming ingredients. They were creating moments of restoration. Families gathered together after demanding days, sharing warmth, conversation, and gratitude while simple herbs quietly supported the body's natural rhythms. In many ways, the healing began before the first sip even touched their lips. Yet physical strength alone cannot sustain a healthy life. Even a well-nourished body struggles when the mind cannot find peace. Many people today battle restless nights, racing thoughts, and mornings that begin with exhaustion instead of renewal. Surprisingly, the ancient world understood this challenge remarkably well. The next drink in our journey introduces a fragrant herb whose gentle aroma has helped calm anxious minds and encourage restful sleep for countless generations, offering a reminder that true wellness depends just as much upon peaceful rest as it does upon nourishing food. When darkness settled over the hills of ancient Judea, life changed completely. There were no glowing streetlights, no flashing television screens, and no endless notifications demanding attention long after sunset. Families gathered inside homes built from stone, where the soft glow of an oil lamp cast gentle shadows across the walls. Outside, only the whisper of the evening breeze and the distant sound of insects interrupted the silence. Night was not simply the end of another day. It was an invitation to rest, recover, and prepare for tomorrow. Yet even in those quieter times, people understood what it meant to struggle with anxious thoughts, restless sleep, and minds that refused to become still. Long before modern sleep medications existed, ancient communities turned to aromatic plants whose gentle fragrance seemed capable of calming both body and spirit. Among these treasured herbs was lavender. Although the Bible never mentions lavender by its modern name, Scripture repeatedly refers to fragrant gardens, precious oils, and aromatic plants that brought peace, healing, and refreshment. Throughout the Mediterranean world, lavender naturally found its place beside herbs used for both practical care and spiritual reflection. Its soothing scent became associated with tranquility long before anyone understood the science behind it. Imagine entering a small home after a demanding day spent working beneath the blazing sun. Every muscle feels heavy, your feet ache from walking rough paths, and your mind still carries the concerns of the day. A family member places a small handful of dried lavender flowers into warm water. Slowly, fragrant steam begins to rise from the cup, filling the room with a floral aroma that is gentle rather than overpowering. Before the tea is even tasted, something inside begins to relax. Breathing slows naturally, conversation softens, and the room itself seems more peaceful. Today, researchers have identified natural compounds within lavender, including linalool and linalool acetate, which are being studied for their calming influence on the nervous system. Several investigations suggest that lavender's aroma may help promote relaxation and improve sleep quality by encouraging the body to shift away from constant alertness. This becomes increasingly meaningful as people grow older. Many adults discover that restful sleep becomes more difficult with age. They wake repeatedly during the night, struggle to fall asleep, or rise in the morning still feeling exhausted despite spending hours in bed. Unlike powerful sleeping medications that force the body into unconsciousness, gentle herbal infusions work differently. They invite the nervous system to slow down naturally. Rather than overpowering the body, they encourage it to remember its own rhythm. Lavender tea reflects this philosophy beautifully. It offers comfort instead of force, patience instead of urgency, and quiet restoration instead of immediate stimulation. Preparing this tea follows the same simple pattern that has existed for generations. A small amount of dried lavender is placed into hot, but not boiling, water and allowed to steep for several minutes until the delicate fragrance fills the cup. Some people stir in a little raw honey for sweetness, while others prefer adding a touch of cinnamon during colder months. The result is not a sugary beverage, but a calming ritual that gently signals to both body and mind that the day is coming to a peaceful close. Perhaps this reveals something our modern culture often forgets. Productivity is important, but recovery is equally essential. A body that never fully rests cannot perform at its best, no matter how nutritious its meals may be. Ancient people understood that strength was built not only through labor, but also through intentional periods of restoration. Lavender quietly reminds us that peace itself is one of the greatest forms of medicine. As morning arrives once again, another familiar ingredient from biblical kitchens begins its work. This time it is not a flower but a tiny seed that most people overlook every day. During one of his teachings, Jesus unexpectedly mentioned cumin while speaking about faithfulness and priorities. At first glance, it seems like an unusual detail, yet his audience immediately understood its importance because cumin was woven into everyday life throughout Israel. Picture an evening meal in an ancient village. Fresh barley bread rests beside bowls of lentil stew flavored with olive oil and herbs. The meal is nourishing but substantial, especially after long hours of physical work. Once everyone finishes eating, a handful of cumin seeds is gently toasted over a clay pan. Their warm, earthy fragrance fills the air before the seeds are added to simmering water, creating a simple drink that leaves the stomach feeling lighter and more comfortable. modern science has begun explaining why cumin earned such an enduring reputation. Its essential oils contain naturally occurring compounds that may encourage digestive enzymes and support the breakdown of food. Studies have also explored cumin's ability to reduce bloating, encourage healthy metabolism, and contribute valuable antioxidants that help protect cells from everyday stress. While research continues, countless generations trusted cumin because they consistently experienced its comforting effects after heavy meals. The preparation remains beautifully uncomplicated. Whole cumin seeds are lightly toasted until fragrant, then simmered gently in water for several minutes. As the liquid takes on a golden color, it develops an aroma that is both earthy and comforting. Some families include a slice of fresh ginger or a touch of raw honey, but many prefer the pure flavor that has accompanied meals for centuries. What makes cumin remarkable is not dramatic flavor or striking appearance. Its strength lies in quiet reliability. It works behind the scenes, supporting digestion day after day without demanding attention. Much like many of the body's own systems, its greatest contribution often goes unnoticed until it is absent. This same principle appears again in another humble gift from Scripture, one that sustained ordinary families through generations of hardship. Barley was never considered the grain of kings. It belonged to shepherds, fishermen, laborers, widows, and anyone who depended upon simple harvests to survive. Yet, throughout biblical history, barley repeatedly became a symbol of God's faithful provision. During the story of Ruth, the barley harvest marked the beginning of a remarkable journey from loss toward restoration. What seemed ordinary became the foundation for extraordinary blessing. Ancient households discovered that barley offered far more than bread. When gently simmered in water, it created a nourishing drink that comforted the body after exhausting work or illness. The resulting liquid carried a mild golden color and a subtle aroma reminiscent of fresh grain fields warming beneath the morning sun. It was neither rich nor luxurious, but it satisfied in a way that expensive drinks often cannot. Today, barley continues attracting scientific attention because of its impressive nutritional profile. It contains beta-glucan, a soluble fiber associated with supporting healthy cholesterol levels, balanced blood sugar, and a thriving gut microbiome. Researchers have also explored how these fibers nourish beneficial intestinal bacteria, producing compounds that help maintain the integrity of the digestive system. Long before anyone understood these biological mechanisms, families simply knew that barley water left them feeling stronger, steadier, and more satisfied. As our journey continues, we will discover that some of the Bible's most valuable drinks were hidden inside the smallest seeds, the simplest grains, and the humblest plants. Next, we will uncover a fragrant seed connected to the miraculous manna of the wilderness, a drink treasured for centuries because of its remarkable ability to soothe digestion while quietly supporting the body's natural process of renewal. Each morning in the wilderness brought a mystery that no generation before Israel had ever witnessed. As the first light spread across the desert and the thin layer of dew slowly disappeared beneath the rising sun, something remarkable covered the ground. Tiny white flakes rested upon the sand, waiting to be gathered before the heat of the day caused them to vanish. The people had never seen anything like it before. They looked at one another and asked a simple question that would eventually become its name. What is it? Scripture describes this miraculous food as resembling coriander seed, a comparison that may seem insignificant today, but carried immediate meaning for those who heard it thousands of years ago. Coriander was already a familiar part of daily life, stored in homes, carried by travelers, and valued in kitchens throughout the ancient Near East. Although manna itself was a miraculous provision unlike anything found in nature, the comparison tells us that coriander was a trusted and respected seed. Families crushed it with stone mortars, mixed it into meals, and often steeped it in warm water after eating. It carried a gentle citrus aroma with subtle earthy notes that made it pleasant to drink while quietly supporting digestion. Ancient people did not need scientific journals to convince them of its value. They relied on careful observation passed from one generation to the next, and coriander consistently earned its place among the herbs they treasured most. Imagine returning home after sharing a large evening meal with family. Fresh bread, roasted fish, lentils, olives, and figs have filled the table. The meal is satisfying, yet your stomach feels heavy from the generous portions. Rather than reaching for processed remedies, someone gently toasts a spoonful of coriander seeds over warm coals. As the seeds begin releasing their fragrance, the room fills with a fresh scent carrying hints of citrus and spice. The toasted seeds are lightly crushed before being added to hot water, creating a tea that feels surprisingly refreshing despite its warmth. Every sip seems to encourage the body to settle naturally after the meal. Modern researchers continue studying coriander because it contains naturally occurring compounds such as linalool and other essential oils that may support healthy digestion while helping ease occasional bloating and intestinal discomfort. Some early investigations have also explored its antioxidant properties and its potential role in supporting balanced blood sugar and healthy liver function. While research continues to develop, traditional cultures across the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia have trusted coriander for centuries because of the steady comfort it seemed to provide. Preparing coriander tea follows the same uncomplicated pattern that ancient families likely practiced. A small spoonful of whole coriander seeds is lightly toasted until fragrant, gently crushed to release its aromatic oils, and steeped in hot water for several minutes. The resulting tea develops a pale golden color with an inviting aroma that encourages slow, mindful drinking. There is no urgency surrounding this beverage. It is meant to be enjoyed patiently, allowing the body to relax as digestion quietly resumes its natural rhythm. From tiny seeds scattered across the wilderness, our attention now turns toward one of the Bible's sweetest fruits. Few trees appear more often throughout Scripture than the fig tree. Its shaded homes, lined village paths, and symbolized peace, security, and God's faithful provision. Prophets used it as an image of prosperity, while ordinary families depended upon its fruit for nourishment throughout the year. Yet one remarkable story elevated the humble fig beyond simple nutrition into the realm of healing itself. When King Hezekiah became gravely ill, the prophet Isaiah instructed that a poultice made from figs be placed upon the afflicted area. The treatment became part of the king's astonishing recovery, forever connecting figs with restoration in the minds of God's people. While the biblical account focuses on God's power rather than the fruit itself, generations remembered that figs had long been respected for their nourishing qualities. The ancient landscape of Israel was perfectly suited for fig trees. Their broad leaves offered welcome shade during scorching afternoons, while their fruit provided dependable nourishment in seasons when fresh food could be scarce. Fresh figs were enjoyed during harvest, but dried figs became especially valuable because they could be stored for months without spoiling. This made them an important source of natural energy throughout the year. Imagine an elderly couple beginning their morning in a quiet village overlooking the Judean hills. Before sunrise fully warms the air, several dried figs that have soaked overnight are gently mashed into warm water, creating a naturally sweet drink with a rich texture. Unlike sugary beverages that provide only temporary stimulation, this simple preparation delivers lasting nourishment. Every sip carries the fruit's natural minerals, gentle fiber, and satisfying sweetness, helping restore strength without overwhelming the digestive system. Today, nutrition science recognizes figs as an excellent source of soluble fiber, particularly pectin, which helps nourish beneficial bacteria living within the digestive tract. Figs also provide potassium, calcium, magnesium, and naturally occurring antioxidants that may help protect the body's cells from oxidative stress. As people age, maintaining healthy digestion becomes increasingly important because nutrient absorption often slows over time. Foods rich in fiber and natural minerals can play a meaningful role in supporting long-term wellness. Preparing fig-infused water remains wonderfully simple. 3 or 4 dried figs are soaked overnight in warm water until they become soft and plump. The next morning they are gently mashed into the soaking liquid, creating a smooth, naturally sweet beverage. Some traditions include a touch of raw honey, a splash of fresh pomegranate juice, or a pinch of cinnamon to deepen the flavor, but the figs themselves provide more than enough character. Their sweetness feels calm rather than overwhelming, making the drink especially comforting for those recovering from illness or fatigue. One of the greatest lessons offered by the fig is patience. Unlike stimulating beverages that promise instant energy only to leave the body depleted later, figs restore gradually. They remind us that lasting strength is often built quietly, one nourishing habit at a time. This slower approach reflects much of the wisdom found throughout Scripture, where steady faithfulness repeatedly proves more valuable than dramatic shortcuts. Yet there were times in the ancient world when immediate energy truly mattered. Travelers crossed scorching deserts under relentless sunlight. Shepherds guided flocks across rocky hillsides for hours without rest. Merchants journeyed along trade routes stretching hundreds of miles. During such demanding conditions, the body required more than hydration alone. It needed lasting fuel capable of sustaining strength throughout exhausting days. That need led ancient people toward one of the most nourishing combinations ever created, blending the sweetness of dates with the richness of almonds into a drink that served as the original energy tonic of the biblical world. As we continue our journey, we will discover why this remarkable combination became one of the desert's greatest treasures and why modern nutrition continues to admire its extraordinary balance of natural energy, healthy fats, and essential minerals. Few trees capture the spirit of endurance quite like the date palm. Rising high above the dry landscapes surrounding ancient Jericho and the Jordan Valley, these remarkable trees flourished where many others could not. Their roots reached deep beneath the desert floor, drawing hidden moisture that allowed them to remain green while the surrounding land appeared lifeless. For generations, travelers looked for the silhouette of a date palm on the horizon because it often signaled the presence of water, shade, and the possibility of survival. In a harsh climate where every journey demanded strength, the date palm became far more than another source of food. It became a symbol of resilience, blessing, and hope. Throughout Scripture, palm trees are closely associated with prosperity and faithful living. The psalmist declares that the righteous flourish like the palm tree, standing firm through changing seasons while continuing to bear fruit. This image was not chosen by accident. Ancient people knew that a healthy palm could withstand intense heat, fierce winds, and years of drought while continuing to produce nourishing fruit. They admired its quiet strength because they hoped to develop the same endurance in their own lives. Imagine a caravan slowly crossing the wilderness beneath a blazing afternoon sun. Every traveler feels the weight of exhaustion. Their clothing is covered with fine desert dust, their mouths are dry, and every step requires greater effort than the last. When they finally stop to rest, they do not reach for brightly colored sports drinks or processed energy bars. Instead, they gather around a simple meal of dates and almonds, two foods perfectly suited for sustaining the human body during long journeys. Sometimes these ingredients were blended into a nourishing drink that restored both strength and hope before the travelers continued on their way. Dates are extraordinary because they provide natural sugars that the body can quickly convert into usable energy while also supplying fiber that helps slow the absorption of those sugars. This creates a steadier release of fuel compared to heavily refined sweets that often produce rapid spikes followed by sudden crashes. Ancient people did not understand glucose metabolism, yet they understood something equally valuable through experience. A handful of dates could restore enough strength to continue walking for hours. Almonds added another layer of nourishment. Rich in healthy fats, plant protein, vitamin E, magnesium, and other essential nutrients, they transformed a simple fruit drink into something remarkably complete. The healthy fats slowed digestion, allowing energy to last longer, while the minerals supported muscles that had worked tirelessly throughout the day. Together, dates and almonds created a natural partnership that provided immediate satisfaction without overwhelming the body. Modern nutritional research continues to highlight many of these same benefits. Dates contain potassium, magnesium, iron, and numerous antioxidant compounds that help protect cells from oxidative stress. Studies have explored their role in supporting digestive health, providing sustained energy, and even assisting healthy pregnancy during the final weeks before childbirth. Almonds have been associated with heart health, balanced cholesterol, stable blood sugar, and improved gut microbiome diversity. Although ancient travelers lacked scientific terminology, they consistently chose foods that quietly supported their health through practical experience. Preparing this traditional drink remains surprisingly simple. Soft dates are soaked until tender before being blended together with almond milk into a naturally creamy beverage. Some families add a pinch of cinnamon to provide gentle warmth, while others include a small spoonful of raw honey if additional sweetness is desired. Most discover that the dates themselves provide more than enough natural flavor. The finished drink feels rich without becoming heavy, satisfying without becoming excessive, making it an ideal source of nourishment during busy mornings or after physically demanding work. This ancient combination teaches an important lesson about true energy. Modern culture often encourages constant stimulation through caffeine, artificial ingredients, and products promising immediate performance. Yet those bursts of energy frequently disappear as quickly as they arrive, leaving the body even more exhausted than before. The biblical approach was different. It focused on nourishment rather than stimulation, building steady strength instead of temporary excitement. The result was endurance that lasted far beyond a single afternoon. From the towering palm tree, our journey now moves toward another plant that occupies an even more honored place throughout Scripture. Few trees are mentioned as frequently in the Bible as the olive tree. It appears in stories of peace, worship, kingship, agriculture, and daily life. Olive oil anointed priests and kings, fueled lamps that illuminated sacred spaces, and became one of the defining products of the Promised Land. Yet hidden among its silvery branches was another remarkable gift that many people today have almost forgotten. The leaves of the olive tree rarely receive the attention given to its famous fruit, yet generations throughout the Mediterranean quietly collected them for medicinal use. Imagine the olive harvest coming to an end. Baskets filled with ripe olives are carried toward the press, while smaller branches remain behind. Women gather these branches, separating the healthy leaves and laying them out to dry in shaded courtyards where gentle breezes preserve their rich green color. Later, these dried leaves are steeped into warm water whenever someone begins feeling weak, feverish, or simply worn down after long weeks of demanding work. The resulting tea carries a gentle bitterness that surprises many first-time drinkers. Unlike sweet herbal infusions, olive leaf tea immediately announces its character. Ancient people often believed that the bitterness of certain plants reflected their healing strength. They did not avoid these flavors. Instead, they welcomed them as signs that nature was offering something valuable. Modern researchers have become increasingly interested in olive leaves because they contain powerful plant compounds, including oleuropein and hydroxytyrosol. These naturally occurring substances are being studied for their antioxidant properties as well as their potential to support healthy immune function, balance blood pressure, and normal inflammatory responses. Laboratory investigations have also explored their activity against various microorganisms, helping explain why traditional healers valued olive leaves whenever illness threatened a household. Preparing olive leaf tea follows the same philosophy found throughout our journey. A small quantity of dried leaves is steeped patiently in hot water until the liquid develops a pale golden-green color. If the bitterness feels too strong, a modest amount of raw honey can soften the flavor without masking the tea's distinctive character. Every sip reflects the olive tree itself, steady, dependable, and deeply rooted in centuries of faithful service. As remarkable as olive leaf tea may be, another surprising drink awaits us next. It was carried by Roman soldiers, connected to one of the most solemn moments recorded in the Gospels, and today continues attracting scientific attention for its potential influence on digestion and blood sugar balance. At first glance, it may seem far too simple to deserve such respect, yet history has a remarkable habit of reminding us that the most ordinary ingredients often hold the most extraordinary stories. There are few drinks in history that have been misunderstood as much as diluted vinegar. For many people today, the very thought of drinking vinegar seems unpleasant, even unnecessary. Yet if you traveled back nearly 2,000 years and walked beside the soldiers of the Roman Empire, you would discover that this simple mixture accompanied them almost everywhere they went. Long marches beneath scorching sunlight, difficult campaigns across unfamiliar lands, and countless days without the comforts of modern civilization made clean drinking water difficult to find. To help protect themselves, Roman soldiers regularly mixed vinegar with water, creating a drink known as pasca. It was inexpensive, refreshing, and remarkably practical. One of the most memorable references to this drink appears during the crucifixion of Jesus. The Gospels record that vinegar was offered to him, while he hung upon the cross. Many readers assumed this was an unusual or symbolic act, but for the Roman soldiers standing nearby, diluted vinegar was an ordinary beverage they carried every day. What seems strange to the modern reader would have appeared completely familiar to those living in the first century. Imagine a group of soldiers stopping beside a dusty roadside after hours of marching beneath an unforgiving Mediterranean sun. Their supplies are limited, and fresh water cannot always be trusted. One soldier pours a small amount of sour wine vinegar into a container of water before passing it around the group. The sharp taste immediately awakens the senses while making the water more refreshing to drink. They have no understanding of bacteria or microbiology, yet generations of experience have taught them that this simple mixture often keeps them healthier than untreated water alone. Today, researchers recognize that vinegar contains acetic acid, a naturally occurring compound that has attracted scientific interest for its potential antibacterial properties. Studies have explored how vinegar may influence certain harmful microorganisms while also supporting healthy blood sugar responses when consumed in moderation before meals. Researchers continue investigating its possible role in slowing carbohydrate digestion, helping reduce sharp spikes in blood glucose after eating. Once again, modern science is beginning to explain practices that ancient people followed through careful observation rather than laboratory experiments. Preparing this traditional drink remains surprisingly straightforward. 1 or 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar or natural wine vinegar are mixed into a full glass of water. Some prefer adding a small spoonful of raw honey to soften the sharp flavor, creating a balance between sweetness and acidity that feels refreshing without becoming overwhelming. The key has always been moderation. Vinegar is meant to complement water, not replace it. This simple drink reminds us that health does not always require complexity. Sometimes the most effective habits are the least glamorous. Ancient civilizations survived because they learned to work with nature rather than constantly attempting to overpower it. Their wisdom often appeared ordinary on the surface, while quietly delivering lasting benefits beneath. As valuable as vinegar proved to be, another drink held an even more cherished place within biblical culture. Few phrases in Scripture are as recognizable as the promise of a land flowing with milk and honey. Those words painted a picture of abundance so powerful that generations remembered them long after entering the promised land. Milk represented healthy flocks capable of sustaining families, while honey reflected flourishing fields alive with flowers and hardworking bees. Together, they became symbols of a land blessed with everything necessary for life. Among the various kinds of milk available throughout the ancient Near East, goat milk occupied a special place. Goats thrived in rocky landscapes where larger animals struggled to survive. They provided dependable nourishment for families living in villages scattered across the hills of Israel. Early each morning, before the intense heat settled across the countryside, shepherds led their goats toward fresh grazing areas while families prepared the first meal of the day. Picture a humble kitchen just after sunrise. Fresh goat milk has been gently warmed over a small fire, while a spoonful of raw honey waits beside the cup. The honey slowly dissolves into the warm milk, creating a naturally sweet drink that comforts both body and spirit. There is no rush, no loud distractions, only the quiet beginning of another day accompanied by simple nourishment that has sustained countless generations. Unlike much of the highly processed milk found in modern supermarkets, fresh goat milk was often consumed shortly after milking or allowed to ferment naturally inside clay vessels. This gentle fermentation encouraged the growth of beneficial bacteria that supported digestion, although ancient people had no scientific language to describe what was happening. They simply recognized that fermented milk often felt easier on the stomach and seemed to promote lasting health. Modern nutrition confirms many remarkable qualities of goat milk. Its protein structure differs slightly from cow's milk, allowing some individuals to digest it more comfortably. It supplies calcium, phosphorus, potassium, healthy fats, and several important vitamins that contribute to bone strength and overall wellness. When naturally fermented, it also provides probiotics that help support a balanced intestinal microbiome, now recognized as an important contributor to immune function and digestive health. Raw honey enhances this nourishing combination in several ways. It contributes antioxidants, naturally occurring enzymes, and gentle antimicrobial properties while providing easily absorbed carbohydrates that restore energy without relying on heavily refined sugars. Together, goat milk and honey create a drink that feels deeply satisfying rather than artificially stimulating. Every sip reflects the biblical principle that true abundance often comes through simple gifts faithfully received. Preparing this ancient beverage requires only gentle care. Fresh goat milk should be warmed slowly rather than boiled, preserving its delicate qualities. Once comfortably warm, a spoonful of raw honey is stirred into the cup until completely dissolved. Nothing more is necessary. The ingredients speak for themselves, proving that extraordinary nourishment does not require complicated recipes. This timeless combination also carries an important spiritual reminder. Throughout Scripture, milk and honey symbolize provision that comes through patience rather than haste. Flowers require time before bees can produce honey. Young animals must mature before providing milk. Nature follows rhythms that cannot be rushed, and human health often follows those same rhythms. Lasting wellness grows through consistency instead of shortcuts. Yet there was another ingredient treasured throughout biblical history that deserved its own place among the greatest healing drinks. It was stored carefully inside clay jars, valued by shepherds, travelers, warriors, and families alike. Entire regions became famous because of it, and Scripture mentioned it repeatedly as one of God's sweetest gifts to His people. Mixed simply with warm water, this golden treasure became one of the ancient world's most comforting tonics. As we continue our journey, we will discover why honey water earns such extraordinary respect and why modern science continues uncovering remarkable reasons to admire one of nature's oldest and most enduring medicines. Among all the natural foods celebrated throughout Scripture, few carry as much symbolism as honey. It appears again and again as a picture of blessing, abundance, sweetness, and God's faithful provision. Entire generations dreamed of entering a land described as flowing with milk and honey, a phrase repeated so often that it became one of the Bible's most recognizable promises. But to the people who first heard those words, honey was far more than poetic imagery. It was one of the most valuable natural foods they possessed, treasured not only for its flavor, but also for its remarkable ability to nourish, preserve, and restore. Imagine an early morning in the hills surrounding ancient Judea. A shepherd prepares for another long day, leading his flock across rocky fields where the summer sun will soon become relentless. Before beginning his journey, he fills a small clay cup with warm water and stirs in a spoonful of raw honey gathered from wild beehives hidden among the cliffs. There are no artificial energy drinks waiting in a cooler, no packets of powdered supplements promising instant performance. Instead, there is only this simple mixture, prepared exactly as generations before him had done. He drinks slowly, feeling the natural sweetness spread warmth through his body while giving him steady energy for the demanding hours ahead. Ancient people valued honey because it offered something rare. It provided quick nourishment without requiring complicated preparation. Hunters, shepherds, travelers, and workers all understood that even a small amount could restore strength after long periods of physical effort. Honey was also one of the few foods capable of remaining edible for years when stored properly. Archaeologists have discovered jars of honey inside ancient Egyptian tombs that remained remarkably well preserved after thousands of years. Nature had created one of the world's most effective natural preservatives long before refrigeration ever existed. Modern research continues to reveal why honey earns such lasting respect. Raw honey contains naturally occurring enzymes, antioxidants, flavonoids, and plant compounds that scientists continue studying for their antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Certain varieties, particularly darker honeys, have demonstrated impressive activity against several types of bacteria while also helping support tissue repair. Researchers have also explored honey's soothing effects on sore throats, irritated airways, and digestive discomfort. Although no single food can replace proper medical care, honey continues to stand out as one of nature's most remarkable gifts. Preparing honey water follows the same beautiful simplicity that defines so many ancient drinks. A tablespoon of raw honey is gently stirred into warm, never boiling, water. High temperatures can damage some of honey's naturally occurring enzymes, so patience remains important. Some families add a squeeze of fresh lemon or a few mint leaves to brighten the flavor, but even without additions, the drink offers quiet comfort. It is neither overpoweringly sweet nor artificially flavored. Instead, it refreshes with a clean taste that feels both nourishing and familiar. The Bible records a memorable moment involving honey during one of Israel's battles. Jonathan, the son of King Saul, had become exhausted while pursuing the enemy. As he passed through a forest, he dipped the end of his staff into a honeycomb and tasted the honey. Scripture tells us that immediately his eyes brightened. That simple phrase captures something timeless. Sometimes the body does not require extraordinary intervention. Sometimes it simply needs genuine nourishment supplied by the natural world. From honey, our attention turns toward another gift that covered the hillsides of ancient Israel every harvest season. Vineyards stretched across rocky slopes, their roots gripping the earth while clusters of dark grapes ripened beneath the brilliant Mediterranean sun. During late summer, entire communities gathered to celebrate the grape harvest, knowing that these small fruits represented another year of God's faithful provision. Although wine often receives the greatest attention in discussions of biblical vineyards, fresh grape juice played an equally important role. Before fermentation began, families pressed ripe grapes into rich purple juice that was consumed immediately or carefully preserved in concentrated form for later use. This fresh juice carried an intensity of flavor unlike anything found in modern processed beverages. Every sip reflected the richness of the fruit itself, untouched by refined sugar or artificial ingredients. Imagine standing beside a stone winepress during harvest. Workers carefully place baskets overflowing with dark grapes into the press, while fresh juice begins flowing into waiting vessels below. The air fills with the sweet fragrance of ripe fruit warmed by the afternoon sun. Children eagerly wait nearby, knowing they will soon receive cups filled with the first fresh juice of the season. For them, this is more than a refreshing drink. It is a celebration of another successful harvest and a reminder that the land continues providing everything necessary for life. Today, nutrition science recognizes dark grapes as rich sources of polyphenol, including resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins. These naturally occurring compounds continue attracting attention because of their antioxidant activity and their potential role in supporting cardiovascular health, healthy circulation, and protection against oxidative stress. Researchers have explored how these compounds may help support healthy blood vessels and encourage long-term cellular wellness. Once again, ancient wisdom finds surprising confirmation through modern investigation. Preparing fresh grape juice remains beautifully uncomplicated. Ripe dark grapes are gently crushed or blended while leaving much of the skin intact, since many beneficial compounds are concentrated there. The juice may be lightly strained or enjoyed with some pulp remaining, preserving much of its natural character. Unlike commercial beverages filled with added sugars and preservatives, authentic grape juice celebrates the fruit exactly as nature created it. The story of grapes throughout Scripture consistently points toward abundance, joy, and renewal. When the Israelite spies returned from exploring Canaan, they carried a single cluster of grapes so enormous that 2 men were needed to transport it. That unforgettable image demonstrated the extraordinary fertility of the promised land. Grapes became living evidence that God had prepared a place capable of sustaining